Super Rugby round 3, the Saturday games. I think that's fair to say that was kind of the round of the comeback. With two of these games getting decided essentially after the 80-minute mark. And a big comeback in that last game as well. Even the first game, the lead changed once, and the second game, the lead changed 4 times. So I think you have to be pretty happy with the way these games went. They all had something about them, and especially after, the two Friday games were a bit scrappy. So it was nice to see a bit more fluid play. I mean, I'm possibly doing the Crusaders a bit of a disservice for that Friday game because they were clinical enough, but overall the game wasn't exactly the best ad for Super Rugby. Whereas this weekend, for the most part, on the Saturday games had a fair bit of entertainment value. Start with the first one. Sunwolves go down to the Chiefs, who, despite sending a second-string team, with all due respect, still get a pretty massive bonus point win, 43 points to 17. The Sunwolves weren't disgraced. I think that scoreline probably makes it look a bit worse than it really was, but still pretty comfortable in the end, 43 points to 17. The Chiefs had tries to Alamalo and Stevenson. Mackenzie got one as well. Weber another. Mackenzie's one, essentially, he set it up, and then Alamalo gave him the ball. So Alamalo could have had a brace, but he gifted it to Mackenzie over the line, which was very generous of him. Boshia, who's had a fantastic start to the Super Rugby season. Tupaya, who's coming along nicely, and Trask at the end, +4 conversions to Sunwolves. April, who got the first one, but actually took it out to a 7-0 lead for the Sunwolves. So they led for about, 4 minutes, maybe a bit longer because the Chiefs missed that first conversion, so maybe 10 minutes. Bregvadze from Mbukamamo and Nakano got one as well, so 17 points to 43. I guess one thing you would have to say is the crowd, which was announced at 18,708, looked really nice on camera. I saw on Twitter that the Lions game, I think, actually had a better crowd. I think they said like 20,000 something. But 18,000 in a 20-something thousand seater stadium looks so much better on camera than 20,000 in a 60-something seater stadium. So it was what Super Rugby crowds should look like every time you watch the game. And the game kind of lived up to the hype, man. Like I said, some pretty magic tries. DMAC was setting up all kinds of play. They had to check the TMO a couple of times, but overall it was pretty clean stuff. DMAC try saves as well as setting up some tries, although he didn't have the best defensive stats overall. The Sunwolves blew a try at one point when they kicked it over the head of Damien McKenzie. The one thing he doesn't have is perhaps a little bit of height, but they couldn't kind of get it in. Ardron got yellow carded at one point, but they only managed to score 5 points during the yellow card period, did the Sunwolves, and then Boshia's try actually came during the Sunwolves yellow card. Well, they had the man advantage as well, so the Chiefs actually won the yellow card, which is probably slightly disappointing for them as well. I thought Trask kicking for touch was pretty good in terms of being able to get the ball 5 meters out when setting up his forwards for an attack. I thought it was pretty good. Brad Webber also proves himself to be a bit of a try saver, saving at least one try when the Sunwolves had a pretty good line break on. So, the Chiefs looked to be the real deal. Very impressive stuff without ascending all their top string players. Still a very convincing win in front of a very good crowd. The final stats, the Sunwolves actually had more possession in territory, 58% and 57%. But their tackling was at 78%. I suppose the Chiefs was only at 81%. So, that was halftime stats. Full-time stats, it was 77% tackling for the Sunwolves, 83% for the Chiefs. Possession of territory actually remained pretty much the same over full-time. Penalties conceded was 12 to 10, so pretty even. Yeah, entertaining game, man. I was pretty happy with that start to the weekend. Fafita for the Sunwolves had 112 run meters, 3 clean breaks, 6 defenders beaten. Tupaia, like I said, in his debut Super Rugby season is looking the business. 5 clean breaks, 8 defenders beaten, 57 run meters. Yep, Chiefs were predicted to do well by the bookies prior to the season starting, and they are looking pretty smart in that prediction. The Sunwolves now travel to Australia to play the Reds, and the Chiefs will host the Brumbies at home. Should be a good game. Chiefs will be pretty heavy favourites for that one. Next one, Hurricanes against the Sharks. A fair bit of big billing on this one because the Sharks have looked pretty good. They were 2 from 2 going into this game. The Hurricanes, bad first week, good recovery in that second week, and now back home for their first home game. And yeah, they got the job done, man. 38 points to 22. It's pretty comfortable, I guess, in the end. But like I said, the lead changed 4 times. Hurricanes penalty, but then the Sharks had a try chalked off, which was a tragedy because it was prop to prop. The prop was it high head to the loose head, and he had to run like 5 or 6 meters. Went over for a try, but not to be. But still, the Sharks did get the first try of the game through Tumbwe. Had intercepted a pass from their own 22 and made it 7 points to 3. Fafita got one from the back of a scrum. But that one was chalked off also for offside. So both sides had tries chalked off earlier, but Hussein got one for the Canes, made it 10-7. Tyler Paul got one from the Sharks after Tumbwe's line break and going through a bunch of phases, 14-10. Laumapi got one to make it 17-14. So I'm talking about the game really being back and forth, nobody really able to get on top. It was 17 all at halftime, but then Ben Lamb kind of stole the show a bit in the second half. He had tries on 44 and 51. The Sharks missed the penalty on 47. Geordie Barrett tried a long distance one again this week, but this week it was a bit short. Cole's got a try from a maul, and at 38-17 it was looking a bit bad for the Sharks, but they did manage to get the last one through Majola on 69 minutes. I guess the game had some unfortunate moments as well. Like the Sharks lost a couple of players earlier. They lost Mapimpi, and they lost that new first 5 of theirs. Chamberlain, that's right. I had to see what his name was. And the Humber had to come on and play fly half. I hadn't seen that before, but he did an admirable job. So I guess good to know that he's got that bit of flexibility in his game as well. But it was just really a pity for the Sharks that they lost those guys as early as they did. The Canes scrum I thought was looking pretty strong. There was handbags at this game. It was a bit of an ugly finish. Coles going into Nahumba on the ground, which was a bit rush of blood moment, a bit dumb. So I don't think the Sharks players really appreciated that. But yeah. Paul went through Armstrong for his try. Tumbwe at one point missed the high ball, so I guess that's an area for him to work on. The commentators also need a wee bit of work, man. I think it was mostly Nisbet, but also Cullen. They were getting players wrong left, right, and centre. I think they said that Almua was... They said that a ball went to Almua, but it was actually Laumapi. That's a pretty big difference. They got Mapimpi and... mixed up. They got Aso and Fidel mixed up. Yeah, man. I know it's a tough job having to talk the whole time through the game, but I would have thought maybe those players don't look as much alike as maybe they thought. Like if it was the Dupree brothers or something, you can kind of understand it, or maybe the Barrett brothers, but still. I thought Geordie Barrett had a pretty good game. Put Esther Hazen into touch at one point. A good try-saving tackle from him. Fussy was dangerous, but I guess His passing still needs a bit of work. A couple of pretty bad forward passes from him, but overall, man, he had 135 run meters, 8 defenders beaten, and 2 clean breaks. The guy's a phenomenon. Lamb had 114, 3 clean breaks, and 5 defenders beaten, so he's no slouch either. Overall, Canes 434 run meters, Sharks 533. So again, entertaining game. Both these games I thought were pretty good value. Possession and territory. Well, the Canes had the possession, the Sharks had the territory. 56 and 57% for each one. The Sharks line-out really let them down, 57%. That's not going to win you any games away from home. Both sides tackling left a lot to be desired. Neither even made 80%. 78% for the Canes, 77% for the Sharks. But the Canes had to make more with 109 to the Sharks, 66. I thought the crowd was pretty good. But again, it's a big oval stadium, so any of the empty seats were pretty noticeable. But I think it was probably, I don't know if they announced it, was it around like 15,000 maybe? So, yeah. Penalties conceded 11 to the Canes, 12 to the Sharks, so pretty even in that regard. But yeah, I guess the Canes are back. After a really poor first round, they've come okay. They go into a bye next, so we'll see what they are like after a week's rest and recovery after some long travels. The Sharks have completed their New Zealand leg of the tour and now go to Melbourne to play the Rebels, who are coming off a win. So that will be a slightly more interesting game than if the Rebels had lost 3 in a row. So, yeah. The next one, Brumbies, Highlanders, 22 points to 23. Now, this game had an interesting finish, but I was struggling with this game. It was pretty tough to watch. It was raining, and the rain got heavier, I think, as the game went on. So that's part of it. But this one was more like the Friday games in terms of the entertainment value. But I mean, even though this game was entertaining, there was no drama at the end. I guess that one the same, though the result was already decided. This one was ugly, but it had the dramatic finish. So I guess ideally you'd like the best of both worlds, but that doesn't always happen. So the lead changed 3 times in this one. At least 3, or was it 4? Either way, the Highlanders got it done after the 80-minute mark, which, as I said, does make it pretty entertaining. Neither side took all their kicks, which, when you look at that scoreline, is a bit worrying. It could have gone either way. Josh Ioane kicked the penalty early, 3-0. Fainga got the first of his tries from a maul on 12 minutes. It was unconverted, so 5-3. And then Ioane missed a penalty. Fainga another maul try, 12-3. Nareki got a try immediately in reply. That was a pretty soft one for the Brumbies to concede, but Nareki showed some pretty good energy levels to be following up. So Lolosio was caught, and his kick charged down. That was a pretty bad one to concede for them, but 12 points to 10. And Ioane kicked the penalty before halftime to make it 13 points to 12. So it was the Highlanders ahead by 1 point at halftime, and it was the Highlanders ahead by 1 point at the finish. Another penalty to the Highlanders, second half, 16-12. Tompkinson got a yellow card on 44 minutes, and people have compared it to like the Rugby World Cup, and maybe he's a bit lucky not to get red. Like some of those tackles in the Rugby World Cup, which was similar, that kind of shoulder to the head stuff, did tend to go red. Whether it was shoulder to shoulder or shoulder to head, I guess the different angles showed kind of a different thing, but it wasn't a pretty one. But the Brumbies did absolutely nothing during that yellow card, man. It was terrible. It was really, really bad. I seem to remember that about the Brumbies in the last couple of seasons. They don't really capitalise on yellow cards, which is weird. Like, they need to work that out, because that was a golden opportunity to really take the game to the Highlanders, but they sure didn't. They did get another try through Fainga. He got his hat-trick on 68 minutes. Made it 19-16. Ioane missed a penalty on 71. But then Lonergan kicked a great one to make it 22-16 on like 74 minutes. The Brumbies had the ball with about a minute and a half to go in their own 22. And they decided to run the clock down, which in hindsight was a pretty bad option. You might have thought in the weather conditions that it was, kick the ball down the other end of the field and make the Highlanders do the work would have been a better option. But again, hindsight is 2020, so Yeah, they eventually got a penalty won. The Highlanders like with 15 seconds to go or something, and sure enough, they made it count. Eventually, the Brumbies gave away a yellow card after too many penalties, and sure enough, as soon as they gave away the yellow card, Ben Nicholas got that final try for the Highlanders, and it was close enough to the posts to make a pretty easy conversion for Josh Jaguares. So 23 points to 22. It finishes. Heartbreak for the Brumbies. Their 10-game winning streak at home is done. And their losing streak to the Highlanders continues. So Highlanders, that was a pretty important win after their disappointing result last week. The crowd for this one seemed okay. Didn't seem terrible. It wasn't fantastic by any means, but it seemed all right. You probably see potentially one of the worst line-out throws ever in this game. I think it must have slipped out of Liam Coltman's hand, but again, wet weather, and he was immediately subbed as soon as that line-out throw just spilled out of his hands to his own player. So yeah, not the best way for him to end the game. Yeah, that was it. Highlanders get the job done, man. Apparently, Tompkinson has been cited after that game. So despite the fact that he got a yellow card, he's been cited. So we'll see what happens if they kind of upgrade that. But Brumbies more possession, 53%. Highlanders more territory, 52%. Both sides tackled really well. Maybe it's a good game for the purists. 88% for the Brumbies, 81 tackles. 92% for the Highlanders, 101 tackles. Neither of the goal kicking was that good, like I mentioned. But to kind of put it into context, like what kind of game this was, like combined run stats from the Sunwolves and Chiefs was 1,028 run meters. Hurricanes Sharks was 967 combined, right? So around about the 1,000 mark. The final two games, 871, 846. So all 800 or more run meters. Brumbies, Highlanders. The Brumbies had 105 and the Highlanders had 141. So a grand total of 246 run meters. It was not pretty. This is one to watch the highlights, I reckon. But as I said, exciting finish. Lynch's had 12 from 12 tackles. Neville had 11 from 11. Run meters, the best guys, Nairiki had 23 and Muirhead had 17. Best for each team. So yes, wasn't exactly a game for running rugby. The Chiefs will host the Brumbies next week, so it's going to be tough for the Brumbies to back up against them, but you got to do it sometime. And why I mentioned it's an important one for the Highlanders to get a win, because they got the Crusaders away next week. So now was definitely a good time to pick up a win. The next one, Lions Stormers. I didn't watch it live, but this game was on at lunchtime here in New Zealand, so I put that one on the laptop at the same time. So a full game, but to be honest, more of my attention was probably on the second game. So I would say I've watched most of it, parts of it, got a feel for it. Probably better than just watching the highlights, but another game that went past 80 minutes. Someone finally scored some points against the Stormers, which is good. But 30 wasn't enough as the Stormers get it done. 33 points to 30 in a proper ding-dong battle. Lead changed multiple times in this one. Sinatla had a chance early. Jamie Roberts had a few knock-ons in this game, which wasn't all that pretty. There was a bit of handbags. Stormers scrum looked good. And yeah, the game went the full 80, which was nice. Lions penalty early. Augustus got a try. The TMO checked it, but it was all good. He had a pretty good game, I thought, from number 8. He's a promising young man. Stormers got an intercept on 18. Masimla went in, had some gas, and the conversion from that one hit the post, but it was 12 points to 3. And at that point, the Stormers were looking pretty comfortable. But Kotsia got one for the Lions. I just remember them being lots of pressure, and they had to check the offload at the end to make sure there wasn't a foot in touch. But I couldn't remember who was the offload from. Was it Marvin Ori? Either way, it was 8 points to 12. And then the Lions actually went in front on 29, 30 minutes. Elton Yankees kicks the ball for touch. with the penalty. It's a great kick, and then a couple of phases after that line-out they go through, and he kicks the cross kick for Skorsan, who gets a try. It's 15-12, and then the Stormers kick a penalty to make it 15-15 at halftime. So it's a pretty close game throughout the whole thing. Penalty in the second half for the Stormers to make it 18-15. Peterson gets a try, and it's from a Damien Willems switch play. They missed the conversion, 23-15. Stormers kick a penalty, make it 26-15. Once again, they're starting to look comfortable, but as they look comfortable, Yankees goes through, gets a try, big gap, 22 points to 26. Dan Creel gets a try on 73 minutes, some great hands from the Lions. Conversion once again hits the post. 2 posters, and you look at that scoreline, pretty costly, 27 points to 26, and the Yankees with like a 50-meter penalty. Pressure kick, absolutely needs to get it. Makes it 30 points to 26, and at that point, it's kind of looking like the Lions are going to get it done. The commentators are starting to talk like the game is over, but sure enough, Ronell gets a try, heaps of phases for the Stormers. They pretty much go most of the field and get a try, so make it 33 points to 30 at the finish. So yeah, proper entertaining game. Disappointing for the Lions because they were in a winning position but couldn't quite get it done. Stormers are now 3 from 3, so they are looking like the form team in the South African Conference, perhaps re-signing all those big name talents despite some injuries is paying off, and Robbie Fleck's departure is starting to look pretty timely, to be fair. Peter Steph Tutoya, 20 out of 22 tackles, kind of no surprises. Andres Kutsia, 10 defenders beaten. It's not often you get to double figures in that stat, and 2 clean breaks. The goal kicking wasn't the best. The Lions 67%, the Stormers 71%. In a game that close, that's where you really start to look back at some of those goal kicks, like I mentioned, all the ones that hit the post. Run meters 339 to 532, but the possession and territory was all the Lions, 62 and 61 respectively, especially in that second half. Tackling percentage, the Lions 87, had to make 90. The Stormers 81, but had to make 143 tackles. So, yeah, defensively under the pump a wee bit. I thought Tyrone Green did pretty well to make one covering tackle on Sanatla. Elton Yankee, as I said, kicked from hand was pretty good, if not so much kicking for posts. Yeah, Daimani showed some real gas. Almost kept the ball in, but it just was in touch. So, yeah, interesting game. I had to go back and watch that one because it seemed to be a real cracker. The Lions have got the bye next, and the Stormers host the Jaguares, so the Stormers could yet go unbeaten for a little bit longer. We will see. Speaking of the Jaguares, they had a second half comeback to beat the Reds. The Reds were very good in the first half and were absolutely under the pump in the second. You look at the try times and you can just see how things went. Tries for the Reds: McDermott 11 minutes, Wright 19 minutes, Feawaisatia 29 and 35 minutes. 4 tries in that first half. The Jaguares just had the one to Montoya in the first half on 24 minutes. So halftime in this one was it 24-7? Or was it 24-12? Either way, it was looking pretty bad for the Jaguares in the first half. And most of us on Super Rugby picked the Jaguares. So the Jaguares did us a favour in terms of their second half performance. The maul tries, another hooker who got a hat-trick was Montoya, got 2, 43 and 63 minutes. Oh, Buffelli's one was in the second half, and that was from the one that Jock Campbell missed, right? Yeah, the high kick. Liam, I thought Liam Wright. Is it Liam Wright? What's his first name? Right. Got a yellow card, and it was about as costly a yellow card as you will see. After that, they got the maul try to Montoya, which put them in front, and then they got the maul try to Socino, which put them 36-27 in front, and then Kubeli's try from Buffelli's line break to make it 43-27, so 21 points conceded. It is Liam, right? With the man in the bin. So you compare that to the Brumbies, couldn't score a single point during the yellow card. That is how you get it. You get it done. So yeah, James O'Connor at one point had a try, knock on. He could have had it, but he lost control of it. It's another situation like last week with TJ Perenara, where the ref asked him, "Did you get it?" And he said, "No, I didn't get it." So a good bit of honesty from him. At one point, the Reds got marched 10 metres by the ref, I guess, for talking back. That's never a good look. Feowai Sotia had a high shot on Carreras, and they deemed it just to be a penalty. So it's another one of those ones that's kind of... That one did look to be shoulder on shoulder, but I guess it depends which camp you were sitting in for that one. The stats, run meters were 346 to 500. So the Reds with a fair bit of running, especially in that first half. Possession and territory was pretty even, 48-52 for possession and 51-49 for territory. That's the Jaguares with the first number, the Reds with the second. But yeah, the Jaguares dominated the second half in those stats and the Reds the first half. So very much a game of two halves. The one stat which will get people talking is the penalties conceded, remembering that the referee is an Argentinian fellow. Reds conceded 14, Jaguares just the 3. So it is a pretty lopsided penalty count. And you remember there was a couple of games last year with South African referees in South Africa where it was like the Lions Rebels or something, or it was like 20-1 or something. So this is not quite in that extreme, but it's in that neighborhood, right? Very lopsided penalty count. If you compare it to the Jaguares' last two games, I think they both had Rusavengi as the ref. They conceded 7 against the Hurricanes and 10 against the Lions. So, yeah, for them to just concede 3 in this one was below what the normal would be. But anyway, Crema had 17 out of 18 tackles. Paisami, a pretty young player, had a good shift. 5 defenders beaten, 2 clean breaks, 3 offloads. I thought McDermott was pretty good in terms of some key tackles from him. But yeah, good result for the Jaguares in the end. Very convincing, but they will be a bit concerned about the way they didn't really show up in that first half. So a concerning second half from them last week against the Hurricanes, and then a bit of a concerning first half. Well, it wasn't really second half, it was just the final 10 minutes against the Hurricanes, and then the first half against the Reds. So, yeah. The Jaguares, like I said, travel to South Africa to play the Stormers, and the Reds will host the Sunwolves in what becomes a pretty important game for the Reds. They finally get to go back home. First home game for them, but no wins picked up on their travel. So, yeah, we'll see. You guys let me know your thoughts on these games. Any of those key refereeing moments stick out for you guys? I try not to talk too much about the refereeing stuff, but sometimes there is the odd discussion point. Pleasing to see some close games. These games very entertaining. This one very much a game of two halves. So overall, I think pretty happy with the action on display for this round of Super Rugby. But yeah, you guys let me know your thoughts. Drop us a like, and I'll talk to you again soon. See you later.